Welcome, everybody. I'm not going to tell you how to use leaf or blame. I'm just going to tell you how they work, and I hope that whenever you find a problem, a similar problem to them, when you remember something from this program, you can apply what you learned here. My name is Alberto Cortés. I'm a former university teacher, and currently I am a software developer. I work for a company called Daiwa. We find jobs for people, and especially I'm working now in a project called Solvi, which is a special project for text recruitment. We analyze public open source repositories to match awesome developers with awesome job offers. Okay. So that's why we do plain noise. Just in case you don't know what we are talking about here, let me introduce you quickly to what is to perform. That means to perform a blame over a file. Okay? Let's say that Alice writes a file with Denmark in the first line, Spain, Mexico, France, Europe, etc. Then a few days later, Bob modifies the file. He has inserted 2 lines at the beginning, Italy and Poland, and I believe he has removed France and Europe from line 4 and 5. Can you see? Okay. And maybe a few days after that, Charles drew up another modification. So he removed Spain and Mexico and inserted China, Finland, and Russia. Okay. So performing a blame over that file is, can you tell me who wrote each of these lines? Okay, so you try to guess who wrote each of these lines. It's quite easy because the history of the file is not very long. Okay, I can give you a little help. Now, well, the colors are not very good, but you can guess from the arrows and the dots and the colors who wrote each line, so probably it's quite easy to get to this conclusion. Okay, so that's what performing a blame is useful. You want to do blames to see who inserted a bug, for example. That's quite useful. And also for my company, you want to do blames to see who is this awesome developer who is having this code and what we're going to hire them, for example. Okay, so this is what we are going to learn to do today. But we are going to start at the bottom because history and file can be quite complex and to see here. So if you use Git, for example, we are used to this kind of relationship between commits and things. So the goals for this talk are, well, understand the blaming algorithm used in modern revision control systems, especially. Can you hear me? Okay. Can you see the fonts? Yeah. Okay, so in order to understand how to do a blame, we will need to understand how to make this, which we use every day. For that, we will need to understand how to calculate the longest common subsequence of 2 strings. And in order for that, we will need to understand the learner's time distance. So maybe some of you know already these things, but in any case, we are going to go over all of them. So the learner's time distance is a measure of the difference between 2 strings. In particular, is the minimum number of edits you need to perform on the first string to turn it into the second string. Okay? Where edits are insertions, deletions, or substitutions, and 1 character at a time. Okay? So let's see some examples. For example, if you want to turn the first string into the second one, well, you just insert another. Okay? So that would be 1 edit. If you want to turn the first string into the second here, you just need 1 character, right? So this is a distance of 1. And if you want to turn the first one to the second, you just substitute the character at position number 2. Okay, so these are the 3 kinds of edits you can perform in order to calculate the time distance. So let's do some exercises. So we can turn the first string into the second by deleting all the first string and inserting on the second, right? So that will mean all edits, probably there are estimate. This is obviously not the minimum distance, right? Or the minimum number of edits. So we can do something more fancy, maybe just delete the first 3, and then insert the other 3, so we will have a distance of 6. And if we are really clever, we can insert a P, then substitute the uppercase L with a lowercase L, and then delete the S. And and then we have turned the first string into the second one with only 3 edits. Can we do better? Well, the Lorentz-time distance will tell you that the distance of these two strings is 3, so maybe there are other combinations of edits you can use, but in any case 3 is the minimum number. Okay, so let's see how to calculate the Lorentz-time distance. More examples. So, what would you say is the Lorentz-time distance here between these two strings? 2? 2? 1. Well, let's say it's not because this is lowercase. Okay. So that's right. Substitution. Now, what is the Lorentz-time distance between a string and itself? How do you run it? How many edits do you need? 0. Yeah, because
it's a distance.
Yeah, it's a distance. The distance between me and me is always 0. And how many edits do you need to turn the string into whatever? The length of whatever, right? So add all these things. That's right. Okay, so this is the guy who invented the Lorentz-time distance, Vladimir Lorentz-time. He was awarded with the Hamming Medal in 2006. It doesn't have anything to do with that. Hamming was not a distance, so it's in the medal, so it's not about distances. And you can use the Lorentz-time distance all the time in spell checkers, OCR correction, OCR string searching, which is very popular nowadays, DNA sequencing, iron, string comparison, etc. We are interested, of course, in the string comparison. Okay, so the first thing he did to calculate, to solve this problem, was instead of thinking on, I'm going to calculate the Lorentz-time distance of these two strings, you have to think in the terms of, I'm going to calculate the Lorentz-time distance of these two strings up until this character in the first one and up until that character in the second one. Okay, so kind of an incremental thing, right? So once you think in that terms, you can say, well, the Lorentz-time distance at 6, 7 of these two strings, this is 6 and this is 7, is just the Lorentz-time distance between the two full strings, right? But the Lorentz-time distance between these two strings at 3, 5 will be the first character of this one and the first character of the second one, okay? And so on and so forth. So we know now what we are talking about. So, how to solve the problem? Well, we can start by, well, that was we did. Let's start by solving some simple cases. For example, what is the Lorentz-time distance in 0, whatever? Well, you will do whatever, you just did it before, right? So that case is simple. Or whatever 0, well, it will be whatever. Or between 0 and 0 will be 0. So, as most of you, I believe, are computer science, is having this is very nice if you want to apply a recursive approach. Yeah, because the base case is already correct. So it's starting to look quite good, even if you don't know the complex thing, but okay. So a nice way to express that, I will read it, if you can see it, is if the minimum of A and J is 0, then the Lorentz-time distance of A and J is the maximum of A and J, exactly what is written on the left side. Okay? Now let's see a little more complicated case. Let's calculate the Lorentz-time distance in general. For example, let's take the strings above, lost and brought, up until 2 and 3. Well, you see we are in the same letter in the logo in both cases. So whatever the Lorentz-time distance is right now is the same as one character of the string, right? Because we are not modifying, adding or deleting anything. So the Lorentz-time distance now is the same as before, right? Because we don't have to do anything. So whatever is the Lorentz-time distance of this is just the same as one character before in both strings, right? Now, whenever there is some change in the characters, things are a little bit more complicated. We can get to a different character by adding something, deleting something, or modifying something, right? So we will have to analyze the 3 cases and transfer all the possibilities looking for the minimum distance. The minimum way, the way that gets you from one string to the other with the minimum kind of adding, deleting. So we will have to inspect all the things. So in case the characters are not equal, like in there, okay? Well, you can say that it's just the Lorentz-time distance there is just the Lorentz-time distance of the underlying thing plus a modification. So plus 1, right? Okay. But you can also say something like, okay, if you go there through an insertion, for example, the J there, the Lorentzian distance at the end will be whatever was the Lorentzian distance before in just one of the strings plus 1, because we are adding one, right? And you can guess the case of the division is just the same case, but moving the other axis, okay? So, with that in mind, let us go through these simple equations, which is the base case up there. So, if either of the indexes is 0, just get the other index, right? So, that's the base case. And if we are writing the base case, the Lorentzian distance will be whatever is shorter between these two possibilities, which is did I get here by inserting, did I get here by deleting, or did I get here by substitution? Okay. Okay, so this is very simple to code. If you code it, obviously you will get with a recursive tree. You will call the Lorentzian distance over these two strings at 6, 7, because that's what we're interested in. And you will have to calculate if you get there by adding, by inserting, by deleting, or by changing, right? Now, once you are here, you will have to calculate. Okay, so it's very typical. Think of Fibonacci, for example, recursive one. So this is about 700 calls. We don't have to panic if you only need 42. Okay. Is everybody got it? Okay. So why we just use a little memorization here in your function, and you realize most of the values are repeated ones, so you only have to calculate one. So, for example, 0 these colors are repeated, right? So in the end, we have a complexity of all the length of the first one multiplied by the second one, which is nice. Now there is another way to do that, which is much more fun, is the bottom-up approach. I'm telling you this because if you want to look more interesting thing about this kind of thing we are doing here, most of them use the thing we are going to see now. So the recursive implementation is the trickier one, so I'm using the formula. This is the interesting one for doing more things in the future. We are going to put here. In any case, we are going to follow a bottom-up approach, which is, okay, we are interested in the Lorentzian distance of lost and plot, which is each of them are 4 by chance. So we are interested in calculating the Lorentzian distance. We are going to begin by 0, 0, 0, 1, and then construct everything until here, which is the same thing you are doing in the tree, really, but just the other way around. So I have inserted here the formula so you can remember it. And let's begin with the first. Oops, I'm sorry. What will be the Lorentzian distance if A is 0 and A is 0? Well, it will be 0, right? Now for the next one, this is 0, 1. So it's going to be 1, right? According to this definition. Okay. Let's see. And also, this is going to be 2. Pretty simple. 3, 4. And also the first column is pretty simple to calculate, right? Now, let's calculate the next one. It is a little bit more difficult. We are in 1, 1. Okay, so we have to do this kind of thing. So we have to calculate this thing, this thing, this thing, and then choose the minimum. So this is the Lorentzian distance of 1 above plus 1. So 1 above, 1 plus 1, right? This is the Lorentzian distance of 1 to the left plus 1, which is addition of deleting, okay? So it will be 1 is 1 plus 1, and also the Lorentzian distance of 0, 0 plus a number that is 1 if the letters are the same, or 0 if not. So it will be 0 plus 1 because they are not the same in an uppercase delta, right? So the minimum of 2, 2, and 1 is 1. Perfect. Let's go with the second one. And anybody, well, I did the same thing, so I just put it again. Sorry about that. But it will be 2 plus 1, 1 plus 1, so 3, 2, 2. So 2. Okay? Then we keep on doing that until we get to the Lorentzian distance. So indeed, the distance, the Lorentzian distance between lost and plot is 3. So if you remember the example before, yeah, we did it right. The optimal there. Okay? Nice. So conclusions about Now you usually have to do this kind of thing when you work. So it's a little bit more difficult. I'm going to ask you to do it. Somebody did it for me, so I put down this little paper. Okay, so we have to solve this problem. Why is this problem interesting? Well, it turns out that finding the longest common subsequence is equivalent to finding the set of edits you have to do from one string to another. Let's see why is that so. So let's say we want to find the sets of edits to turn paint into plants. Okay? So we know that the longest common subsequence of both strings is pan. We can easily calculate what edits you have to do to this string to get into that string, because as we know that this one is the longest common substring, is a substring. So you either keep things from the source or you delete things for the source. Yeah, because this is shorter than the other. So it's pretty simple. We are going to keep the D, we are going to keep the A, we are going to delete, yeah, and keep the N. Okay, so it's very, very simple. Not so easy to go from paint to plants, but from paint to pan is really simple. Now, how to get from pan to plants is really simple, as this is longer than the longest common subsequence. We are only going to add, right, to the longest common subsequence. So we are going to keep the D, we are going to add an L, then keep an A, then an S. So pretty simple, each of these steps. Once you know the middle one, right? So how do you know, by the way, how do you know how to get from one to the other? Just merge. Now I'm trying to use a vocabulary from it and brain, something we are going to see at the end. Okay, so let's try and merge these two bits into a huge one that take us from one to the other. So we start by the first line of each one, so keep, okay, if you insist, we are going to keep the D. Now, keep the A and insert an L. Okay, so the N string is going to be bigger because we are inserting something, so let's insert it and move this counter down one step. Now, keep and keep, okay, we keep the A, go down, delete, okay, so this is going to be longer, so we delete, great, and move the other index. Now we keep the N, and we keep the S. So this is the set of edits to go from paint to plants. Only 3 edits, the other are just kits. And we show in the Lowenstein list. We can, by the way, this is the full list. So we are already getting into the lifting, without even mentioning it. So we can go the other way around. There is really nothing to explain because you don't really have to calculate this thing, just multiply this by min 1. So whatever is that, you will it. So there is nothing to explain here. Here is the same, and lo and behold, here is also the same. Okay, that's the opposite from the other, as it should be. So, conclusion. Calculating the longest common subsequence is equivalent to finding the edits of a list, or at least it's so easy to find the edits once you have the LCS. Let's do the LCS thing. So how's it going? Any questions?
Yeah, I got one. Is at the end, in español or en inglés?
In English, it's much better for you.
So I got a question. At the end of the computation of the Lowenstein distance using dynamic programming, you say that you cannot know in advance what were going to be the particular edits that you are performing.
That's right.
So go back to your example, please. In the end, number is 3, right, for Lowenstein distance 4. My question is, for computing that number, you actually apply the formula that you were using at the bottom, right? So every time you're picking up, so if you are saying that this distance is 3, is because there is another value which takes either value 3 or you
This comes from these 3.
so you know, what my point is that you know where you are coming from. So if you know where you are coming from, why the hell don't you know what are the ends? So because each one corresponds to different cases.
That's not true. You know where you are coming from. The thing is you don't know which is the way to optimize this path. For example, you can get from 0 to there, It's like at the same time where I am calculating this thing, I am building bridges, and they are called like that, so long lines, and it will tell you how to go then from the end to the beginning in the shortest path.
Yeah.
That's why I want to tell you about this kind of matrix, because if you're interested in the thing, then you will be able to understand all the algorithms exactly for doing that. In any case, indeed we are interested in the LCS here directly, not in the left time distance, so this is what we are doing. Okay, and we are already on 100 or so. Very nice. Okay, let's talk about diff. Any other question? No? So diff. The original, well, diff is the command, the program we use every day probably to turn into files. The original version is from 1970, and it used a lot of heuristics to calculate the LCS. That was shown a few minutes ago. The final version is from 1974 by McIlroy. He's also known for short spell joint ER pipes for great important right? And he describes what he did on the diff on a paper 1 year later. So they code things before and then they interesting. Okay. And well, it's basically the same algorithm we have been seeing here, but with a lot of awesome optimization that I don't fully understand. So, for example, he used apparently these were candidates, nice, which was a publication from 1 year before his, so pretty awesome. A lot of hashing, of course, resorting into quality classes, but I don't know what it is. I'm sorry. Merging by binary search, I think everybody knows that. Storage allocation, so it's it has been a lot of work has been put into not only making the algorithm work, but also making it practical. So it can be quite slow for not very common files, binaries, things like that. So it's optimized for text and things. Well, there is a little difference between what we have seen with the LCS and diff, is that diff is going to compare lines, not character in a string. Yeah, so we have been comparing strings, character by character. This is about files with lines. Well, it's quite easy to get one into another, that's why using some hashing, for example. So let's turn its line, let's strip the line character of its line, let's hash this line and convert it into a big number, for example, something that fits in UTF-8, for example, just for me to be able to print that, okay? And you will be turning its line into a character. So can you guess the next one? Which one is going to be?
That's perfect.
Perfect. You are up and away. Okay, so easy. That's not really a problem. Okay, so we can apply everything you know about the strings to files and things. And also another important thing for this is the output format, not the user output, which is something clean and readable, but the format is used inside the function and everything. So let's say we have two files with 8 lines, then we modify the file, we insert 2 lines at the beginning, modify line 3 and 4 in the original file, insert in an uppercase or terminate to uppercase, and then I think we have to delete these 2 at the end. Okay? So the output format, the internal output format of a diff will be something like this. So insertion of B1 and B2 will be a number, 1 for insert, and an array of strings, whatever string. Okay. Keeping something is just 0. So we are here keeping line 1 and line 2. Modifying something is, please can you delete the 2 previous lines and then can you add these 2 other lines. So this is harder for a human, but if you are working on a program that processes this, very simple to apply the changes. You delete first, then you add, so it makes sense for a computer. And then we keep another 2 lines and 0 another 2. Okay, so that's the internal output format for this. Pretty simple to process, and also if you want to inverse and calculate the inverse So, conclusions about this. This uses LCS to calculate the minimum set of the leads from one file into another. It's basically the standard LCS, but using usually hashing to turn lines into charts. What about collisions? Well, if you are unloading unloading, you will have collisions. Of course, that's not usually the case. This is also highly optimized in ways I don't understand. And the output format example is just like this. Okay? So we are nearly getting to the end. Do you think I'm taking too long or I'm going to do it? It's okay? Yeah. Fine. So, any questions? Okay, blaming things. If you remember the example from the first slides, well, as it was color coded, it was really easy to solve. Well, blame is just color coding the history of the file in a way we are going to see seconds. So that was my idea. Well, blaming a file is basically tracking its lines across all its revisions in the past. So to get who wrote this line, we will have to track it, right? Across all the revisions and see how they change the line number of the lines keeping the same. So blaming is about tracking lines. It's explaining in a paper from 2006. By the way, I will leave the slides in the chat box so you will So basically, you can solve it using graphs. Let me explain it first. Let's say that we create a file with only 4 lines. Those symbols are the 4 lines in the revision 1 of the file. We modify the file by adding 2 additional lines at the beginning and 2 additional lines at the end of the file, right? Then we modify that file by inserting some lines in the middle, and then we modify that file by deleting some lines. I also delete some lines over there. Okay? So we would like to track the reading of these lines across all the revisions to see who was the guy who read that.
And what happens if the change is in the same line?
So
You're talking about difference between lines. What happens if it's not in
if
the
you
same
switch
line?
2 lines, for example,
No, in the same line,
that could be a modified, yeah, very good question. That could be, it's not in this example, but that will be, that line will get deleted and another line will get inserted, right? Even if they are similar, just changing one character.
The hashes are
going
different line, but with the same image.
Yes, the hashes are going to be different, so I won't reflect it like that. So we can solve this problem with graphs, saying, okay, each line in each revision is going to be a node in the graph, and each edge is going to come from the diff between these 2 files. So you know that these lines are kept, these lines were inserted, things like that. So you can connect the nodes to get the full graph. Now, there are 2 ways to do this. The straightforward way, which is the one I am currently using because I haven't time to do the property, which I will do in a few minutes, is starting from the beginning. So you say, okay, for all the revisions, maybe I will insert an empty revision at the beginning to make everything nice and fuzzy. For all the revisions, calculate the diff between the same file in all the revisions, so you know which lines came from where. Then for all lines in each revision, assign a new author to the new node if the line was inserted. So, for example, here we are empty, we are inserting 4 lines, so the author of these 4 lines must be the author of revision 1, right? Not the author of revision 0. And if it is a heap, just inherit the author from the node before, right? So let's get this. See some examples here. So we make the first diff. We found that there are 4 inserts. Of course, if there are inserts, the author must be the one from the revision, right? These 4 lines. Now, we calculate diff again. We see there have been 2 inserts, some keeps, and 2 inserts. So in the case of the inserts, obviously the author here will be the author of revision 2, right? The author for these 4 keeps will be the author of revision 1, and the author of the last ones, so something like that, right? this, just read it afterwards. I'm going to demonstrate it, which is much nicer. So begin with the first line and say, I don't know who is the author of this, but maybe the node before me knows about it. So I'm going to calculate the diff, and store it in some memorization of things. So for the next line, we don't have to calculate it again. So it's a keep. So I came from here and it was just keep, so I still don't know who is the author, right? Calculate the diff for the previous one, so it's also a keep, and we still don't know. Calculate the diff, ha! I was inserted on edition number 2, therefore I am a 2. Okay? You do that for the next line number. You have already made most of the diffs, so no need to repeat it again. So I don't know where I come from, but maybe the guy before me knows. So we perform, we see that this is going to be a keep, a keep, a keep, and here there is an insert. So we are basically tracking down the lines until we get an insert. When we get an insert, that's the guy who inserted. That's the guy who can blame for that line, right? So we found insert here, so this is number 1, and we keep doing that over all the lines, and we get the same line like before, and we are saving a lot of time and space because we are not caring about lines that got deleted. If we begin from here, we are doing a lot of work on the beginning, so that's why this is not very good. Yes. Now, things get a little bit tricky when you don't have a linear history. So up until now, in all my examples, we get 4 revisions of a file, so 4 moments of time of people modifying the file. Now, as you know, things can get a little bit complicated, right? With merge and things. So can we use this on this kind of history? Yes, we can. There is no problem. You just flatten them. And when I mean flatten, it's just like that. Okay. So chronological. Now, there is a lot of optimization. This is why you can do that only in Git, and it's because you can do that in how it works in Japan. Okay, there are problems with auto-merge when you merge several branches from the same place, and also there are problems when a merge conflict. But thankfully, it stores the differences of the resolution for the Git merge. Sorry, for the Git conflict just there, so you can apply this if, then this, that, and everything will do the same. Okay. Here there are a lot of problems. For example, you can have 2 branches who create the same file with the same content. So when you merge them, who is the one to blame for? So you have to choose. And there is not a single solution for blaming. It's quite a pain in the ass to test it, because to test it, you are doing it right. The Git implementation choose another heuristic for that, and you cannot compare the blames even if you are doing it right. So that's
But one question: in that case, you have if you try to merge 2 branches in which the same file is created, you will have a conflict. So somebody has to fix that conflict.
Yeah,
so in the end, the people the one to blame will be the one fixing the conflict, right?
In the case of the fixing, yeah, but if the one fixing the conflict didn't modify, just choose one of the incoming things, what are you going to blame? The guy who merged it or the guy who wrote it?
Yeah, I mean, it's but for a log's perspective, will be actually the guy to blame will be sort of the guy who fixed the issue.
In any case, there's not a single solution.
Yeah.
I have a question. Wouldn't it be better to not flatten history? Because if one of the paths is very large,
Yeah.
you just jump from line to line, you go through the shortest path,
Yeah.
and that should be more efficient, shouldn't it?
Yeah, well, it depends. Let's
Depends
say,
on how the resolution is, but many cases just...
well, the point is, you are missing these commits.
No, you go through all of them at the
Yeah.
same time.
That's what I'm doing right now,
Oh,
actually, because it's much better than reorganizing this kind of thing. So this is conceptual. We are thinking about it, how to do that in code is, I'm going through all the graph.
yeah,
I'm
we
doing
go
the same
through
thing.
It's similar to what we do with regular expression, when you go
Yeah.
through the states.
That's exactly the case. So there are a lot of interesting optimization opportunities, and DBlame is full of them, the actual interpretation of DBlame, and I haven't been able to understand most of them. So if you want to dig into that, it will be really nice to know for a future talk, for example. So conclusions,
several branches and you have one commit, two commits at least at the same time,
Yeah.
when you have to flatten,
Yeah, I haven't been able to solve that problem. I am trying to make a fixture for that, so to see how big.
it's very complicated that it was on the same time stamped at the same time, but
It's very difficult.
it can be happened.
So I think that Toqueteros said, why don't you use just the commit with the, how was it, with the letters alphabetically smaller than the other, and that's not. Great idea.
Typical on C word.
So it's easy. There's many things out there, so it's easy. It's a nice solution. Even when blaming only half, I don't think we are going to get into that case. But in any case, I have to set that one. Just to deal with that in the future or something.
What's the resolution for the timestamps internally?
I don't know. Well, officially it's now set, but depending on the host, we commit when to search or whatever.
I'm not really sure about it, but at the end, the div, so the div uses the computation of the longest comes to the string. I'm not really sure about it, but I think that this is empty hard to be computed. Am I wrong? So if that's empty hard, then it's not something you can actually do in practice. So I guess that you have kind of different heuristics for approximating.
For example, one huge step in diff performance was instead of starting the diff with the two files, just spending some time seeing if they have the same prefix. Because if they have the same prefix, the performance you will get just by reducing the n, it's huge. So it's a lot of fun.
I think one of the optimizations of diff is a sort of cluster. I think okay, whatever you're talking about are ranges of similar files,
They are-
identical files.
They are called hunks, and Blame use that, for example. So instead of doing what I'm doing right now, which is line by line, you will say, you know what? The first 3 lines is a hunt because they go together all the way to the beginning. So instead of doing 3 operations or 100 operations, and if you think about your code, most of the commit you do, you know, there is a big happening that you are not touching, then a few lines here and there, and then other. So
I think it was in the original McIlroy's.
yeah,
Maybe the one I saw a long time ago. They were sort of clusters.
yeah, maybe that's what the component classic was about. I don't know. Blame do that, and now was having a lot of problem trying to follow the hands along the splits and things because a hand will split suddenly and then pass to join the front. It's complicated, so I end up going line by line. So this is giving me results right now, even if it's probably not the fastest thing to do that. Yeah, that's quite interesting.
I suggest that you take the diff from Plan 9, which is very close to McIlroy's version, which is very clean code. Or
Yeah.
cleaner than you
Easier to understand.
yeah.
Yeah, that would be very nice. Some more questions, comments? Or views? Okay, so we are done. So please, you can prepare your own thoughts and lead them to these 9 guys, and it will be awesome.
Yeah, that would be awesome. Because it's been really difficult to find another speaker.
Yeah, I know it's hard, but you always have a lot of work to do instead of doing this, but in the end it pays off with a lot of nice people. We meet with a lot of nice people you haven't seen in a while, and you understand much better what you're working on by spending 3 days not working on it. In the end, the results, I think they also. Okay.
Great. So now I have just one last thing that in January 16, we're going to have a workshop here about Kubernetes and Docker. I think we're going to announce that next week. So stay tuned on Twitter. I guess it's when to announce it. Welcome